There we go, we're live. Hi, my name is Nancy Mader, and I am the Director of Transition Services for the Federation for Children with Special Needs. Today is Transition Tuesday. I am sitting outside on my front porch, social distancing from my guest today. My husband's sitting in my house, manning the camera from the window, and we're trying to keep the children and the dog at bay. So we're gonna try to do this as quick as we possibly can. So my guest is Allie Ulrich, and we talked a couple of months ago about the College Navigator program that Easter Seals has. And when we talked to her in January, everything was normal, and now everything is different. And so I invited Allie back because I wanted to talk about how things have changed, how the Easter Seals adapted to these changes, and how students are doing with these changes, as well as some information about what parents can be doing right now with their young people who will be going to college next year, as it looks like a lot of the colleges will be remote in the fall. Some of those haven't been decided yet, but there have been some schools who have come right out and said that they're not going to go on campus, do on-campus learning until maybe the spring or maybe the following year. So it's a whole different ball game from high school. And so Allie and I are going to talk about it today. So I'm going to let Allie introduce herself again really quickly, and then I'm going to ask her some questions, and we're going to give you guys some information. Thanks so much for joining us.
Perfect. Hi everyone, my name is Allie Ulrich. I'm the program manager for the College Navigator program at Easter Seals. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, Allie. So when we talked in January, everything was normal, and you guys, the College Navigators, were seeing people face to face. So what does it look like now?
So as soon as the college campuses all shut down and decided that they were all going to remote learning, we immediately switched our model also to remote services for everyone's safety, our staff and our clients. So we're really lucky that because Easter Seals has a lot of itinerant staff already, all of our staff have laptops. They all have an app on their cell phone that can allow them to talk through their office phone, and we have Zoom. So we're able to use these different tools to video conference with clients. We're able to show them things on our screen. They can show us their screen if they're stuck on how do I find something, how do I navigate this remote learning model. Some students haven't used sites like Blackboard or Canvas before. Some have, but now they're doing everything there. So it's been a big adjustment, but we were able to hit the ground running, which has been a great support to the students.
So when I talked to you a couple weeks ago, you had said some of the navigators are having more communication now with remote services than they were in in-person services.
Yeah, so some clients definitely have struggled with the remote learning, and they've struggled with connecting with someone through that remote model. You know, it's not everyone, but we have had clients who want to meet with us more. They're struggling in things that they weren't struggling in before with school. And so they've reached out and said, I need more help than I did before because I don't know how to navigate this. And I think they also have more time now. They aren't necessarily going to second jobs. They aren't necessarily, they're not going to hang out with their friends and do fun things after. So as a result, some of them are actually taking their studies, I think, a little more seriously, putting more effort into them and using the resources they have more, which is great to see.
Yeah, that is great. So what's the adjustment on the navigators part? Like how are they feeling about remote services for their students?
I think they see the positives and the negatives. You know, I think that for some students who it's harder to connect with, who often you have to ask them a million questions to kind of get information out anyways, like getting that information out through a computer screen is that much more challenging. Right. Other students, it's kind of the same. Like they're just as chatty as they were. They're reaching out for help. You know, I think it's been a little bit less of an adjustment for some of our navigators than some traditional employees who are in the office 24/7 and now have to work from home. Our college navigators already had that experience of creating their own schedule, of having to have a place to, you know, get work done at home. So we were poised in a lot of ways better than some other, you know, employees might have been to do those things. But it comes with its challenges. You know, it's exhausting to look at a computer screen all day. I think most people are feeling that Zoom fatigue. Because we're used to meeting with people face to face. I mean, even just like this is nice to see people from 6 feet away. So I think that happens with our clients. I think that happens with our staff, but we're just pushing through as best we can, and doing as much as we can for the clients remotely.
So I don't know how necessarily all high schools and schools are doing remote learning, but I know that for my boys, we get a weekly schedule. And so they know what they're doing each week, where college is driven by semesters. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about what parents and families and students can do now to start getting used to looking at things more long-term than, week by week.
Yeah. So I think really starting to help your student understand time management and organization, making sure they have a planner, whether that be a physical one or they want to use one on their phone or one on their computer. Even if they have a planner, I like to encourage people to also use a computer or phone one, because that gives you reminders. A planner requires the student to constantly look at it. Whereas if you have reminders set up on your phone or your computer, if you completely forget about something, it's still going to ding and remind you.
Right.
So putting some of those tools in place, I think, is really important, and having them be a little more independent, setting their own alarm, starting to say, okay, what do you have to do for this week versus mom and dad checking in every single day? Can you make them a plan even for the week? Or for, okay, you have a project due in 3 weeks. How are you going to get that done? How are you going to break down that big project over the next 3 weeks? Starting to look at projects into smaller pieces. I also think it's important to start going over with your students Zoom etiquette, like video conferencing etiquette, phone etiquette, email etiquette. These things are going to be more and more important, regardless of whether or not, as we slowly get back to a little more in person, there's going to be a lot more of these things than there ever was before. And while we've always really focused on interpersonal skills, which are still really important, and you still want to practice with your student, how do they advocate for themselves? Can they explain their disability? Can they talk about what they need to a professor? But talking about, with Zoom, making sure there's not background noise, making sure there's a professional background, muting yourself if you need to, if something else is going on. How do you talk professionally? How do you write professional email? Those are all going to be really important skills as we move into this kind of new normal of a lot more remote learning.
Yeah, those are great tips. I didn't even think about Zoom etiquette.
Yeah.
Because they're at high school right now where everyone knows them, so they can be slumpy and sloppy and however they rolled out of bed. But their first semester of college, they probably ought to brush their hair.
Yes, exactly. and not just getting up and walking away.
Right.
Some students are like, oh, what do you mean I shouldn't just get up and walk away in the middle of a lecture? Well, you wouldn't do that in a classroom, so treat this as a classroom. And I think sometimes we just need to remind ourselves of that. You get sometimes complacent. You're sitting in a room, no one's here, but you still want to treat it seriously. And I think talking to your high school students about how they're going to take college seriously, even if they are taking a college class from their bedroom, is, a new concept.
Right. Wow. All right. Thank you so much. I'm just happy to see you.
No, it's so nice to see you too.
And thank you so much for all this information.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Cameraman, back this way. Thank you. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. We have the longer version of my interview with Allie from January about the College Navigator program on our YouTube page. It's also archived on our Federation Facebook page. But I'll also link in how to find out more about College Navigator and other Easter Seals programs. And everyone have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine, and we'll see you tomorrow.